Godzilla vs. Kong is the fourth installment of the legendary MonsterVerse. This one is helmed by Adam Wingard, and this movie is about Godzilla. He's attacking certain places and hurting people, and no one really knows why, because he's supposed to be a savior, kind of a hero to set balance to nature, and now he's hurting people. So there's a team of people led by Millie Bobby Brown who are going to try to investigate what's going on. On the other end of the coin, following Kong, though, there's a group of people that are trying to find this source of power in the hollow earth, and the only way to find it is for Kong to lead them there. But as soon as they take Kong off of Skull Island as their guide, Godzilla senses him, recognizes that there's an ancient rivalry that has been foretold before, and now they have to fight. I was very excited for this movie. I'm always excited for the MonsterVerse movies when they come out. They always look great, and in some ways I get some enjoyment out of them too, and this movie just looked like a ton of fun. But the thing is, my relationship with the MonsterVerse as movies, though, is a little weird. I rewatched all three of them before this movie came out, and my opinion has kind of changed for a good majority for them. If you remember my review for Kong Skull Island, I didn't really care for it, and I still don't really care for it, but my grade is kind of lowered. There's more things that kind of bother me about that movie. Style, just kind of for the sake of style, not really any real flair or passion behind it. There's no great character in it or leading it, just kind of great ideas for characters, or characters that I like a little more than others that, unfortunately, because of execution, don't really get a chance to really shine. I've enjoyed the Godzilla movies in this series more, but that first Godzilla movie, if you remember my 2014 review, my cringy 2014 review back then, I gave it an A+, and ever since then I've rewatched it multiple times, and it's changed from, yeah, maybe it's not an A+, but it's still really great, or maybe it's not so great, maybe it's not even really all that good, it's a little draggy. King of the Monsters is definitely my favorite out of the three, but even that one, after rewatching it a couple times, I was like, yeah, just certain things aren't really as consistent as I thought they were back when I saw it in theaters. So I guess the main thing I'm trying to get at here is that this review is subject to change, mainly because sometimes when I rewatch them, I notice some more things that I didn't notice the first time I saw it in theaters. Cut me a break, will ya? I was a little skeptical only because Adam Wingard as a director, I only really like the guests out of his movies. Movies like You're Next, Blair Witch, or even Death Note, not really a big fan of, but you know, for a movie like this with so many moving parts, it's part of a larger story already being told. It kind of doesn't matter. It's not like he's writing it, so I was really excited to see what he could do differently than everyone else. So I was really excited going into the theater. I saw it in theaters because IMAX, I feel like for a monster movie like this, a one-time watch in IMAX at least, you know, is kind of worth it. And it was actually a little more packed than any other time the theaters have been reopened since the pandemic, which might be a sign that things are coming back to normal ever so slowly. You know, we can only hope that we'll get there. We'll be back to packed auditoriums with people that you're annoyed with, but then maybe you vibe with when you start to laugh at the same things or cheer at the same things. And I am so glad that I saw it in a theater instead of just watching it on HBO Max. This movie really does deliver in the action department. I'm just going to talk about the thing that everyone only cares about. The fights are incredible. Like, more so than any other fight in the MonsterVerse so far. Like, every single action scene I feel like has topped the other ones in the other movies. More than just we get more scenes of Godzilla fighting in the daytime, which is great, you know, because you get to see a lot of the impressive work that the visual effects artists do, like the little details for the environment or the little details on Kong or Godzilla. More than just it's visually breathtaking to look at, the visual effects, how far we've come, is incredible, but because they do a lot of impressive things in these action scenes to keep them going and keep them kind of creative. I was worried going in that, is this just going to be punch, dodge, like rush, and then punch, you know, kind of repeat? They really go at it, these two. They go at it in ways that I wasn't really completely expecting. I was expecting, like, yes, the trailer, he's got that axe, but like even more than just he's got an axe, it's the other things that they do with him too to keep like maneuvering around Godzilla, or what Godzilla does to try to stay on top of it. It looks spectacular and it's so much fun. There are several fight moves that when they happened, I was like, I had like a big smile on my face. One that had the entire audience kind of going like, yeah, like clapping and together. It was incredible. The cinematography is great. Everything is well framed and everything is well lit too. It's kind of funny. It looked like Adam Wingard took inspiration from the lighting and kind of style of frame from Kong Skull Island, but placed it here and even kind of did it a little better. Because every single frame pops in this. There's not really, I can't really recall that moment that happens in some other Godzilla movies where you see Godzilla going in for the fight and then the camera pans down to the humans running away, which isn't a bad trick, you know, to show off scale, but also to transition to another part of the scene. But I can't really think of that moment in this movie because Adam Wingard truly knows what you're here to see. And they really deliver. Like, the entire last act of this movie is just kind of non-stop action, and it's incredible to watch. But even before that, you know, you have a couple skirmishes here and there, and the humans are placed on an interesting mission that propels the plot forward, but not in a way where you're like, oh, I'm just kind of bored right now. I was interested in everything that was going on. The script, I feel like, is a lot tighter. This is the shortest MonsterVerse movie that we've gotten out of the three, I believe. And it's a very fast-paced movie, but I think that only works towards this movie's benefit because there's not really a whole lot of fat that you have to cut, or in retrospect, you're kind of like, can we please just get to something that resembles a monster fight, anything else? Like, you're just kind of watching it and like, I'm along for this journey. They do a really great job with the pacing in that respect, and every single character, they kind of offer up just kind of the basic, like, you kind of get like, okay, you understand why this kind of matters to them, or why they're so invested in this situation, but their introductions are a little rushed. If I had to complain about it in any way, just like, this is the one time where I would look at it and be like, I feel like they maybe could have spent a little more time in the beginning to kind of flesh some of these other things out, because they're better than some of the other characterizations given in other MonsterVerse movies. The characters are... That's a weird thing to talk about with these MonsterVerse movies, because everyone's like, no one's here for the humans, everyone just wants monster fights. But me personally, I feel like that would be a really boring movie unless you had someone really intelligent come at the helm and make something that was just Godzilla and Kong. So I can understand the need to have human characters, because it gives you a chance to empathize with someone in this series, because a lot of them are just like giant animals that fight based off of instinct. But like with the first Godzilla, once Bryan Cranston bites the dust, Ford is just kind of a flat line, just kind of hopscotching from event to event, and you don't really feel a change or any character growth. It's just, he's just kind of stiff. In Kong Skull Island, there's like a couple characters that I found some intrigue with, but some of them aren't the focus, and the execution behind the writing has to give focus to some of these other characters that I was just really bored with. The top two people billed for that movie, like Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, they're not the people that I found intriguing in the least for Kong Skull Island, but they're the leads, technically. And then King of the Monsters, they got a little closer to what I was kind of looking for as far as like what you could do with the human characters, but a lot of it is just kind of Kyle Chandler expositioning like, we had some problems, and now we're here, so yeah, let's just keep going. And it's like, I wish we saw a little bit more of that, and every other character is either just, I'm saying funny lines, or I'm on the team saying smart stuff, and there's not really a whole lot of reason to care. This movie, I think, does a better job with characters and giving you a reason to care about them, but they don't do a good job of introducing them. So although they're treated better in this one, there's still ways that they go about exploring them or bringing them into the plot that is like, oh, this is the one time where I wish you spent more time with them, especially for the antagonists of this movie. In case anyone doesn't know, I won't show who they are. They definitely are in the marketing, but I won't show them just in case you haven't seen it. But it's one of those things where I was like, I never once thought that this person could be anything other than a villain. But the thing is that their motivation, like, it's something that me, if I was in a world where giant monsters could wreak havoc at any moment, I would also be thinking about. And I might even potentially side with them. But they play them up so cartoony evil, like, ha ha ha. It's like, no, play this a little better. This is an interesting dynamic that you can work with. And unfortunately, it feels like they just kind of squandered that potential because, you know, a part of the feedback is just keep the plot moving. We don't care about human characters. And as much as they do a good job with some of the other stuff on a basic level, this is the one part where I feel like they could have used a little bit more of a dramatic heft here. A little bit more of an interesting character writing. But all that stuff aside, I still found myself enjoying watching these characters. Millie Bobby Brown is a great holdover from King of the Monsters. She leads this movie pretty well. Brian Tyree Henry and Julian Dennessy are kind of like the comedic reliefs. A part of her journey. Julian Dennessy is just kind of her friend, but he's a little bit of a pushover, a little nervous, and Brian Tyree Henry is like this truth podcaster. He's the kind of conspiracy theorist that you want more of, as opposed to the real life conspiracy theorists that are whack jobs and fucking crazy. This guy actually knows something about what's going on, and he's fun. They have funny jokes, and he and Julian Dennessy have a good back and forth. They all work together really well. Alexander Skarsgard is in this movie, and you understand why he's invested in this mission to Hollow Earth. You get it, and there's some kind of emotional reason behind it too. But he's also kind of played up as kind of a goofball. He's not like the Aaron Taylor Johnson, like I'm just very straightforward, just kind of straight to the point. Like they do play him up a little goofy in this too. There's plenty of funny moments with him, and there's a really funny running gag with him actually that comes in near the end of the movie, and I was like, that's actually pretty hysterical. I kind of want to give it up to the writers really quick. Two of them, Max Borenstein, who's kind of been with this franchise from the beginning, the first Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, and he came up like the story by credit for King of the Monsters. He's really been with this franchise for a long time, so he knew where to bring this story to. And then you have Eric Pearson, who came in to co-write with him. I don't know if they worked together or if he wrote like a different draft at another point, I don't know, but he's actually had a lot of like script doctor work for stuff like Ant-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming, the Infinity War, Endgame, Detective Pikachu. So it's like, you know, I think these two really complemented each other really well. One really brought in like the Titan lore and the importance of like the epic plot, and then you have someone else who came in and probably brought more of like the light-hearted kind of energy to it too. And I think these two actually worked really well together. I think that this is definitely like the best plot out of the MonsterVerse movies, because there's one part of this plot where they go to a place. I don't want to say in case you don't know, but they spend so long down there, and it's honestly kind of amazing. You know, a lot of it is Kong at the focus of it too, so it's like you're watching just this giant ape kind of exploring this new place, and it's like, this is kind of cool. This is really awesome. I do wonder, like, if someone only watched the 2014 Godzilla and then just like jumped right into this one, they would be like completely thrown off, because that one is like more like Godzilla, but he's in like a more grounded real world, whereas this one, they're just kind of embracing like the wacky tech, the more fantastical sci-fi fantasy elements of it. So that would probably be really jarring. But I feel like if you watch these movies like from Skull Island, then gradually into King of the Monsters to here, it's not that jarring, but just it was just funny to reflect on that first movie and how different the approach to that one is versus this one. For the better, obviously. Rebecca Hall is in this movie. She studies Kong, and she's the one who kind of cares about Kong because Godzilla might come and beat his ass. So she cares about the safety of him, but also she's looking after this little girl who is deaf. But also this little girl played by Kaylee Hoddle, she is really good in this movie. I watched the trailer and I was like, will I care about this little girl who like talks to Kong? Will I actually care? And then I watched it and I was like, actually I kind of do. This is actually kind of interesting. I kind of like the way they're going about this. They have some really sweet moments together too. It's like, okay, you got me. You got me on that one. There are some lines of dialogue, either jokes or just like exposition kind of things, where when they're said by characters, it's kind of like, a little bit of a groaner there. And there's a couple moments where I was like, man, aren't you lucky that this actually worked? Or aren't you lucky that this is happening like conveniently nearby you? You know, stuff like that. That's kind of like, I can excuse, it's not like a huge hinderment on the plot or the movie as a whole, but it was something I was watching and I was like, you guys really are, like, you're very lucky that this is happening. The screenwriters did a really great job of making this as coincidental as possible, obviously. But overall, I had a really fun time with this movie. Obviously, there's issues. I don't think this is a perfect movie, but it knows exactly what it's there to be. It's tighter, it's fast-paced. The music by Tom Holkenberg is great. It's honestly incredible, as well as the monster fights in this. The action sequences, the visual effects, the way they keep the action going. The human characters are actually, like, you don't hate watching them. They're not annoying either. You get their purpose in the plot. You understand why it matters to them, and they're doing interesting things in them. It's honestly, it's my favorite MonsterVerse movie. It's, I think, the best one they've done. If they decide to end it here, I'd be totally fine with it because it's a pretty solid finale. But if they do decide to do more, because this movie's kind of killing it right now as far as the box office goes, at least pandemic box office goes, I would honestly be for that too, as long as they kind of take like the same kind of creative approach or maybe something more in line to this. I think they've finally kind of found their groove of what to do with these movies. I'm gonna give Godzilla vs. Kong a B. The action is incredibly fun to watch. They do a lot of interesting things, not just with the plot to keep the humans interesting, but to have these fights going and to just have really fun, like, cheer out of your seat moments when you see these monsters do these things. It's honestly great. It's incredible to watch. I would highly recommend seeing it in a theater. Just wear a mask, hand sanitize, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can still watch this at home and have like the same amount of like hype going through you, the same amount of like adrenaline, because it's that exciting. But if you've seen Godzilla vs. Kong, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.